Welcome, it is I, Morcar, back on the dreaded Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Yes, indeed, friends, I have been playing this game, which is somewhat reminiscent of Baldur's Gate 2, probably my favourite RPG of all time, and also the game which ruined RPGs for me from that point forward, since nothing I ever played after that was as good as it. However, this game, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, seems to scratch the same sort of itch. Remarkable, really. It's got the feel, or it feels like you're playing a spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate 2. And because of that, I thought I'd make a little video. Now, it doesn't have the same kind of atmosphere as Baldur's Gate, or all the same quality of writing or voice acting as that game, but still. I have got together a league of evil wizards, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to my party. So, meet the Star of Asmodeus. Seeking unlimited power, the evil wizard Morcar hired the Star of Asmodeus, often referred to simply as the Star, an elite mercenary squad of 5 wizards who serve Asmodeus, the Prince of Darkness. Collectively, they believe in their own supremacy and look upon others with total disdain, seeing their lives as inferior and therefore expendable. They are thoroughly evil, and to most normal people appear quite mad, full of grandiosity and proclamations of their own power. Each member of the Star took a code name upon initiation, giving up their previous identity and taking an oath of secrecy. Their code names are Drake, Blake, Fake, Quake, and Snake. Little else is known about the group, or their precise relationship with the archfiend Asmodeus. Now, for the rest of this little video, I'm going to introduce you to each member of the party, including myself, Morcar, the evil wizard, and, if there's some interest, maybe in a future video, we'll even get to see a bit of them in action. I'm currently stuck somewhere in Chapter 2. They're level 7, the party, at the moment. So there's, as I understand it, quite a lot of the game left to go through. So,
perched at the very precipice of oblivion. What better laboratory than the blood-soaked battlefield? Behold the infinite malignity of the stars.
Morcar, yours truly, is an evoker who set out on a quest for personal power and glory. Unhappy with the mewling and weak companions he found in Mendev, that's the companions that the game wants you to take with you, he quickly hired the Star, a group of like-minded evil wizards. Specialising in direct damage and fire spells, Morcar is much more likely to settle a dispute by casting a fireball than through diplomacy, although he does strategically uphold and respect the law to mask his true ruthless nature. He is quick to execute insubordinates and shows contempt rather than pity or compassion for the weak and vulnerable. Some might argue he is a psychopath, but this has never been diagnosed. And thus far, I have been somewhat role-playing the game, taking the most ruthless and evil options possible, whenever possible. So, next member of the party.
I'll silence kings and butcher the gods. Chaos will swallow the earth. We are all wolves. My howl heralds war and death. My strength will prevail.
Drake. Drake is a Magus and the only member of the Star to devote himself to studying war and martial prowess. He wields a great axe and specializes in imbuing it with touch spells. He also uses a variety of transmutation spells to artificially increase his size and strength. Although sworn to secrecy about his past, like all members of the Star, Drake seems to be an Ulfan from the lands of Linorm Kings, or the lands of the Linorm Kings, which may explain his preference for using a great big axe. He thirsts for blood and destruction, so that is Drake. And in the composition of the party, Drake is basically the only tank and damage dealer. I mean, I say tank, he's usually buffed to the gills and fully souped up with arcane magics, enchantments, the aforementioned touch spell, which is a special Magus power that you can imbue. You can actually put a touch spell onto the axe. He deals massive damage with the axe, and usually he's got blur and mirror image and all those sorts of spells on him as well. So he's basically impossible to hit for the enemy. So he is the only kind of frontline member of the Star of Asmodeus. Next.
No beast so fierce but knows some touch of pity. But I know none, and therefore am no beast. Once in noble battle, I screamed against the silence. I stood as light against the darkness. Now, I serve a new master, Oblivion. I am Oblivion. I am destruction. I am doom.
We have Blake. Blake is a white mage who is thought to have had a religious or perhaps even monastic background before joining the Star. Given his frequent references to being a god killer who now serves Oblivion. The healer of the group, he also specializes in defensive abjuration spells and offensive enchantment spells, especially Hideous Laughter, which he uses to incapacitate his enemies. He generally wields a mace. So, I mean, Blake also can get involved with the frontline stuff. He's usually one step behind Drake in the setup, but often he will be casting buffs, enchantments, possibly even a few magic missiles, etc., before he actually gets involved in hand-to-hand fighting. I'll explain more about the basic tactics of the crew soon. Yeah, and also, of course, being a white mage, he has access to healing spells too. So he's, in the classic D&D structure or Pathfinder structure, Blake is the stand-in cleric for the party, while Drake is the stand-in fighter for the party, even though they're both significant magic users.
Always know when to make an entrance and an exit. True magic is beyond language. Writing merely butchers the intent. All beings are made of the same stardust. Hope, wonder, insignificance. Imagine what they'll feel when I complete the stars.
Next in the party is Fake. Fake is an illusionist who delights in trickery and deception. His lock-picking skill suggests that he might have spent a period as a petty thief in his past. Such days, however, must be long behind him, because he seems obsessed with understanding the nature of the universe, which he claims is made of stardust, and also he claims require his constant attention. He has evidently studied this extensively. Nothing is known of his motivations for joining the Star. Now, while Blake is the cleric stand-in and Drake is the fighter stand-in, Fake is the thief stand-in. He basically handles the disarming of traps and opening of chests and so on and so forth. Hence the high dexterity score that you can see there. But he also has a significant spell book full of illusion spells. He's an illusionist. So, he casts spells like blur and invisibility and so on and so forth. But there's a few, he also slings a few magic missiles like all the rest of the crew. They all got at least one or two magic missiles on them. So, yeah, that is Fake. He also shoots a heavy crossbow as well. That's the kind of weapon he carries. So he stands at the back shooting arrows, but more often than not, he'll be casting some sort of mind-altering illusion spells if it's offensive, or making the party harder to hit, generally.
Have you considered the pleasures of sin? Soon you will all serve me. Cower before me, mortals. Wickedness is its own reward.
Then, also standing in the back line, we have Quake. Quake is a conjurer who has a megalomaniacal personality and appears convinced that all living creatures will one day serve him. Perhaps this is why he is so frequently summons creatures and monsters to do his bidding. Of course, he's a conjurer, so he's got tons of summoning spells. He also seems preoccupied with the 7 deadly sins and is totally devoted to evil, a natural fit for the Star. Although nothing is known of his prior life, given his skill with a bow, it is safe to assume he was no stranger to battle. So he has some sort of longbow that he uses, and generally speaking, in the battle plans, I'm playing the game turn-based, by the way. For some reason, real time, you cannot really play, if you want to get the most out of Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, you have to play it in turn-based mode, more like Fallout, done like Baldur's Gate. If you play it in real time, there's just too much going on, especially with a party of 6 spellcasters, as I have here. You actually need the round by round pause. Otherwise, you'll get mullered, basically. You'll get beaten. So you actually need every moment. But anyway, in the battle plans, in the tactics of the Wizards of Morcar here, Quake tends to obviously summon a load of creatures, lizards and dogs and wolves and elementals of various different kinds. And usually what happens is that he will summon a shitload of them, and they will advance forward. And then he also has other conjuring spells. Typically he summons a massive pit, or a spiked pit, where, so if you can imagine, the front line has got a ton of summons there, right, fighting monsters. Then there's a pit, and then behind there you have the Wizards of Morcar shooting spells into the thing with the pit between them. And generally when the enemy tries to come, they get stuck down the pit. And then if they get beyond that, Drake, who will go in and try to, kill them with his axe, and then, you've got the other 5 wizards there, just nailing him with various different spells. Especially Morcar will be just hit. Morcar's spellbook, which we can take a look at. We can have a look at their spellbooks in a moment. That might be a fun thing to do. But basically, Morcar's spellbook is just like, 7 magic missiles, 7 scorching rays, tons of fireballs. So he really does do a huge amount of the damage for the party. But then, all of the other guys have got spells they can cast as well. Blake hits that hideous laughter, which actually knocks a lot of enemies out, and then they can quickly take down a lot of people. So a lot of the battles have been relatively straightforward using these sorts of tactics. And Quake is instrumental to those plans, obviously, providing both the pit and the monsters. And then,
in the world beyond, blackened ichor filled a crumbling sky, as souls withered to nothing. But I refuse to fade. I raise my iron fist to subjugate the living. All shall serve the true lord of the living and the dead. Flesh constrains, iron liberates. Naive men pray to the gods. They will learn to pray to me. Shed the frailty of flesh. Embrace the cold edge of iron. I have bent the realm of the dead to my will. This world shall be next.
The fifth point of the star, if you want, and the 6th member of the party is Snake. Snake is a Necromancer who commands an undead army and specializes in spells that spread sickness and other weaknesses to his enemies. Such as Snake's mastery of death magic, it is assumed, but not confirmed, that he comes from Geb. He constantly proclaims that he will grind his petty enemies into mortar, and that he will make the living join the ranks of the dead under his command. Like every other member of the Star, he seems to be quite mad. And Snake really works quite well with Quake because he summons undead, and due to the build on the character, especially now he's at level 7, he's got augmented summoning, he's got all sorts of buff to his summoning. He's a Necromancer specialist. He's got so when he's casting that animate dead spell, he often gets like 4 tough skeletons that come, and he casts it twice, so there's like 8 skeletons there, plus the lizards and wolves and various other creatures and the elementals that Quake. So you can imagine there's quite a lot of summoned monsters there in between the party and the enemy. Now obviously this is not like, if it's just weak enemies, you can just take them out using normal spells. I'm talking for like big battles. There's quite a lot of tough battles in this game that require this sort of strategic planning. And for those battles, that has been the general plan. Ton of summons, the pit in the middle, etc. Faker's got that howling mist spell that he can put in the middle as well. So there's lots of things that they can put in the way of the enemy. There's another great spell called Grease that I think comes from the Conjuration school. So there's lots of peril that is put between the party and the enemy, and then if they actually get through it all, they should be weakened enough for the party to take them down in short order. There's also Snake has got a ton of spells that weaken or harm the stats. The necromancy spells like Ray of Sickness and stuff like that. So that's handy, but I have found that his best spells are Bone Shaker and the other one, the higher level Bone Shaker spells. They just seem to do really good damage, so he actually takes out a good few enemies with those spells as well. So yeah, that is the party. And just before we wrap up, we might as well have a little look at their spell books. So let's do that. At the spell books then of the various different wizards here. This is Morcar's spell book. He's an evoker, of course. Now I don't tend to use these cantrips. They've generally been completely useless, so the only cantrip I ever use is this dismiss spell one here. I've found no use for any of the cantrips whatsoever. But on level 1, you can see he has a shed load of magic missile, one of my favourite spells ever, one of Morcar's favourite spells. Alex boy! And there's Burning Hands, there's Ear-Piercing Scream, and of course he's got Shield just to buff his AC, if required. So that's pretty much it, almost entirely, attacking spells. Then at level 2, just tons of Scorching Ray and Burning Arc. 2 super useful spells because they level up, basically. Especially Burning Arc. Look, 1d6 of fire damage per caster level. So at level 7, what's that? 7d6, and then it it hits a target and then it bounces as well. So that makes that a pretty good spell. And this is good for direct damage. It's 4d6 of fire damage. And if you have a look at the build of Morcar, I can find it, has got in the build, look, greater elemental focus on fire, which makes his fire spells particularly harder for them. He's also got what's it called? Greater spell penetration as well. So those fire spells have got pretty big chance of succeeding. Pretty hard to resist for the even against enemies like demons and so on who've got pretty high spell resistance. So this is the Morcar build. Any other spells from him? At level 3, he's just tons of fireballs, battering blast, force punch, and lightning bolt. Force punch is just in case an enemy sneaks out. He's usually on the back line. Force punch actually hits the enemy back, right? So if anybody dares come close to him, he hits them with that, but usually not needed. And then we've got Dragon's Breath and Controlled Fireball as the level 4 spells. Also, he's got this mythic path thing, which gives him abundant casting, which basically doubles the amount of spells he's got. That's why he's got so many spells. So that's pretty good. Strong character. Then there's Drake, and as I said, he's got a lot of touch spells. This True Strike is quite handy because it basically gives you a guaranteed hit. The shield as well. And then more touch spells. Frigid Touch. Bear's Endurance is a good strength buff, and Mirror Image, which is a self cast, so Fake cannot put that on him, so he has to do it himself. So that's pretty handy. So if you can imagine this Frigid Touch, you know, it's attacking 4d6 of cold damage, plus, if you have a look at his axe here, that is, without any enchantments or anything, already 1d12 plus 7. But then, I mean, I'll just show you really quickly what it would look like. So
my howl heralds war and death.
If we see him here, right? If we see Drake, where's that gone? Where's the? Oh yeah. So if we enchant the weapon, so he's enchanted his weapon here. If you have a look here, it's also, I've got this shock thing on. So the enchantment is not only a plus enchantment there, it gets this shock thing here. And now, if you have a look, that axe hits for, in damage, 1d12 plus 8 plus 1d6 of shock damage, plus plus those touch spells. You can see that's a shed load of damage he's doing if that hits. And you know, this axe is getting what, plus 13 to hit, plus 13. So that's a pretty, you know, that's a d20. So let's say you roll 10, that's 23. And there are, you know, very few enemies that are going to have like 23 armor class. So he's hitting a lot of the time, and he's doing massive damage when he does it. So I'm pretty pleased with the way Drake has been built. Yeah, Force Punch and then Vampiric Touch. All of these are touch spells, so that they basically get added onto the axe. It makes him an absolute killing machine. He's a damaged. I mean, he doesn't tank really, but he doesn't need to, because once you've stuck mirror image on him, once you've stuck, I mean, if you look, if you cast shield here,
The abyss.
if
What
you
did I gaze into it?
stick, what else can we put him on him?
The heavens diminish without my attention.
Stick, for example, displacement on him.
Have you considered the pleasures of sin?
True magic is beyond language. Writing merely butchers the
world
intent.
will embrace chaos.
Let's say he does mirror image as well. Mirror image too. And you can see with all of this stuff on him, he is now got 25 armor class with the shield, and then with displacement he's got a 50% chance to miss, plus the mirror image. I mean, he's basically impossible to hit now. So, you know, he's a pretty effective front line. And don't forget, in this party, front line means, you know, so if you can imagine, we're here like that. In this party, front line means
All beings are made of the same stardust.
I have been waiting for this.
you know, let's say, you know, we stick a water elemental there. One of these dire wolves there. One of these lizards there. Dire wolf. One of these guys.
Mortals plan in fear for tomorrow. I build for eternity.
So you can see, look, I mean, they have to get through all of those, and then let's say we were, you know, really having this battle. He can,
Hope, wonder, Insignificance. Imagine what they'll feel when I complete the stars.
Watch your step.
He can stick one of these pits in there. And you can see they just fall straight into the pit. And then if you can imagine that, like, let's just pretend these are enemies here, you can hit them with that. Say, you can...
The task ahead is terrible.
Smash them
And
with
weakness
fireballs.
cannot be tolerated.
You can...
I am surrounded by weak and petty souls, clinging to flesh.
hit them with things like Bone Shatter, you know, all of this is big damage.
Sometimes the stars gaze back.
He can take them down with, stuff like
Already,
this.
you disappoint me.
So anyway, you get the idea. So yeah, we can have a look now at Blake's spellbook. Blake is an Arcanist, white mage, and a lot of his spells really are abjuration, defensive spells. Stunning Barrier buffs his AC, Shield buffs his AC. This is an offensive spell, Incendiary Runes. True Strike is handy. Reduced Person is a offensive transmutation spell. Hideous Laughter here, Mortal Terror, and this, and yeah, these are just buffs. Heroism is a buff, but if you notice with the Arcanist, he is a
Gods and mortals, they deserve only death.
he's a spontaneous caster, so he gets a lot of different copies of that from his arcane pool, or whatever they call it. And then he also has these side spells here, like Ice Missile, which is decent damage, Okay, so the lizard made his save, but it's a decent. Okay, the skeleton's immune to it. It's going well. Okay, well you get the idea. Okay, so then we will have a look at Fake spellbook. Fake, just lots of illusion. He's specialist at color spray. He's got Vanish, obviously. A few other spells in there. Mirror Image, Blur, etc., etc. That Haunting Mists, I said. You can see that. Goes like that.
Always know when to make an entrance and an exit.
Like that. So this. So yeah. What else has he got? Yeah, I mean this is a pretty good spell because it just completely wrecks the constitution and dex and stuff of the enemy. Excruciating deformation is handy offensive spell. Displacement you've seen. Haste always handy, and then that's situational. That's see invisibility, and then some other spells here. Phantasm, it's kind of a mind spell, and then more invisibility. So that is Fake. And then when it comes to Quake, in terms of the build for him, you can see, he's an illusionist. He's got that spell penetration in there, focused on illusion. These things give him good penetration, etc. Quake, Conjurer, and a lot of his feats and things are focused on summoning. He's got good superior summoning, and he's even got Ascendant summons as well, so pretty heavily buffed summons for Quake. And in terms of his spell book, you know, he's got a lot of mage armor that, you know, if it was a real fight, we might prepare a little bit, and he could stick
Wickedness is its own reward.
he could stick mage armor on everyone, basically. Where is he? Oh, he fell down the pit. All right, where he can stick mage. Stick mage armor on everyone. Well, the characters who don't wear armor anyway. And you can see it's put up Morcar's armor to 19, his armor to 20. He's on 17. He's only on 14 himself, sadly. But if you can see,
Perched at the very precipice of oblivion.
Morcar, for example, with the shield, he can get up straight away to 23, which is pretty formidable AC then, isn't it? So, yeah, Quake has got...
Power before me, mortals.
He's got that. Yeah, I'm going to have to turn those voices down. They were loud, aren't they? I'll turn those voices down a minute. Like there or something like that, because they're all very loud. Okay, maybe I'll have that there too. Okay. So yeah, where were we? Yes. So Quake. Yeah, what's that spell there? Grease. Super useful spell, Grease, because it basically knocks people over. They slip on the floor, and a lot of because it's a physical spell. There's not a lot of immunity either. Not affected by the spells, by the target's spell resistance. Very handy. Then we have, well, he's got monster summoning 2, small elemental, and then acid arrow, and then Spike Pit, which you just saw, Summon Monster 3, Silver Darts, and then Summon Medium Elemental, Summon Monster. So yeah, I mean, a lot of summons for him. Yeah. And finally, we've got Snake. He has got yeah, tons of spells that cause fear, you know, the ray of sickening and enfeeblement and so on. Bone Shaker, which you saw, good damage spell, and it keeps on leveling up as well. Look, plus 1d6 additional points of damage, 2 levels of caster. Well, he's level 7 now. So what's that? 2, 4, 6. So that's 3. So 3d6, 6d6 of damage for Bone Shaker if it gets through. Scare, blindness. I mean, all of these are useful. Animate Dead Lesser, Ray of Exhaustion. There's that Deformation spell again, and then the big Animate Dead and Bone Shatter. He's got the Ascendant summons too, and if you have a look at his build, if you have a look at the way I've put him together, he's got a lot of those same things. Combat casting, spell penetration, yeah, so there it is. The only misstep I made, but I can't be bothered to respec him now, is alertness. That was silly, I shouldn't have taken that, but yeah, not big enough for a total respec on him. Alright, so that is the Wizards of Morcar. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you're interested to see them in action, let me know, and maybe I'll give you a... we'll see them in action in a future video. Bye for now.